Hello, good evening and welcome back to In the Know, the live and interactive Aintree preview show brought to you by Coral and the Racing Post. We are 1 day down of 3 for the Grand National meeting. Sir Alex Ferguson had a treble, Paul Nicholls had a double, and the Gigginstown Silks were carried to victory, but not by Tiger Roll in the bowl. And the Irish only won 2 races today, so the British got a few back on those Cheltenham spoils. My name is Ross Brierley, and we'll have a look back at the feature races from this afternoon in the company of our panel, and then we will get well and truly stuck into day 2, where we have another 4 Grade 1s to have a look at, and if anything, they're a little bit more competitive than day 1, and we also have 3 handicaps which look impossible on paper, but I know our pundits like to find something at a nice price in those types of races, so hopefully we will find something to go to war with on day 2 at Aintree, where on day 1 the ground probably rode a little bit soft side of good to soft, especially over the national fences, so it was a bit of a test at times, but luckily our panel managed to find some winners and we'll be in a good mood because of that. Let me introduce you to the man to my left who had to wait pretty much all week at Cheltenham for a winner, but decided at Aintree to do something completely different and kick off with a nap in the first.
Does that count as 2 winners in a row? Last race at Cheltenham, first race at Aintree. I mean,
It does.
I waited 28 races for a winner at Cheltenham, so to go 1 from 1, it was fantastic.
And the Racing Post Live boys said they could hear you screaming at home from in here.
Yeah, I like to have a good shout up, and I did try to be as loud as possible. So I could, so
That was Protectorate, of course, who...
I thought when he jumped off, he started jumping out to his right. I thought, this isn't right. This is like he started at Kelso, and but he seemed to warm to it, and he edged all that way anyway, which is strange because when he goes the other way around, he tends to edge to his left, doesn't he? But he's obviously got a fair engine in him. The shunter may have been a shade unlucky. Made mistakes at I think 3 and 4 in the straight, particularly the last. But you take it; they're there to be jumped, aren't they? And my lad did it.
It's very diplomatic of you, saying that the second was unlucky when your naps won fairly cosily in the first race. So Paul will hopefully be finding more winners on day 2 then. Next to him in the studio is Coral representative Simon Clare. And in terms of a bookies bashing, there were some well-fancied horses won, Monmoral, Clanders Oboe, but I reckon you got a few decent results.
Yeah, I think it was a solid day. I think there were winners to be backed and plenty of people backed them, but there were some good results for the bookies as well. I mean, put it this way, if we'd been told Sir Alex Ferguson was going to have a treble on the day, would have been very, very worried, because if Hitman had won, along with Monmoral and Clanders Oboe, you'd be talking a completely different story, because a lot of people were going on the Paul Nicholls treble, the Fergie treble. The fact that Protectorate landed the treble with Ferguson is great news. I think there'll be a lot more coverage tomorrow of today's racing, maybe even some of the news sections of the papers, which is great for the National and the meeting as a whole, because of Fergie landing a treble on Merseyside, all the various, a hat-trick on Merseyside, however you want to call it. But their results like Mike Has and Pascal was largely unbacked. Editor Jit solid. Abracadabra's not too bad. So a good solid day for the bookies, and 2 days to go.
And a personal highlight for you on day 1?
Oh, I don't know. I thought... No. I mean, I was sort of near misses. Sully Dock was second, Buzz was second. I suppose Abracadabras, he fell in the champion hurdle. He was fancied. He'd been a bit of a nearly horse, I suppose, on the big day. So to land the Grade 1, hurdle was good news. I failed to finish off, or I should give a little bit of a mention to, paid out on quite a few big horses today. Mr. Fisher, Jason the Militant, Waiting Patiently, Fusil Raffles, Song for Someone, some of the horses which people got that money back as a free bet up to £10 on that particular offer. So, so a good, solid first day.
OK, thank you very much, Simon. We'll see what he's got up his sleeve for the rest of the evening. And joining us once again live from his living room, if Paul started on fire today, then Tom ended it with 2 winners. And at least one of them you could remember the name of, Tom.
Yeah, that was good effort, that, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember that one. Couldn't remember the name of the last one. But look, I'm not taking much credit for the last one. An Irish horse in a bumper. The only Irish horse in a bumper. It wasn't rocket science, I can assure you. But yeah, she won, so happy days.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you say it wasn't rocket science, Tom, but it was a pretty decent prize.
Yeah, she was a good price. Yeah, I'm surprised. I was really surprised that she was such a big price. I mean, the breeding was there. I mean, she'd won last time, and British bump horses aren't great, are they? They never are. So there we go. Happy days.
Absolutely. And your personal highlights, Tom, was it Editor De Geet never seeing another rival?
Probably. Probably, yeah. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed watching him jump and run like he did. I thought, I was thinking of poor old Keels there because he's been on this horse for the whole of the season. I was sitting there watching, thinking, this is his one. This is his one, and why isn't he on it? But he just got away from them, didn't he? And it was they could never come back. That's what happens in that race. It happens every year, doesn't it? Something gets off on the lead, and Aintree is such a good track in that race, particularly for front runners. And he just got the lead, and no one really pressed him. And there we go, job's a good one.
Yeah, and Gary Moore and Arthur Moore, you two winners. So maybe that was. I assume I'm really delving in. I'm figuring out the way you pick your horses. It's just surnames, isn't it, Tom?
Well, you've got it.
Speaking of surnames, I'm just going to call you Tom this evening. Paul, talk us through a couple of the other races today. Of course, Abracadabra, but also, Clandersoba, we all took him on in that, and I think down the we were hoping the second was going to beat him.
I backed two. Mr. Fisher did what he did at Cheltenham. Really, he jumped beautifully, then made one mistake, frightened himself, fell at the next. That was it. Klondike Castle got a lovely ride going through, but you could always just see how well Clandersoba was going, and those chick pieces have really turned him into something else, haven't they? There, yeah. Always worry about end of season races and how solid the form really is. But for a horse that wasn't supposed to be in front too soon for most of his life, he's got those cheek pieces on and he's just off. He's gone.
He pulled away when he even sniffed another rival.
That was really, really good. It might, I'd imagine RPRs have that not far off a career best. And the great thing about it is apparently Paul Nicholls is toying with the Bet365 Gold Cup at the old Whitbread. And, there's so many trainers, especially in Britain, who do not run top class horses and handicaps. And to see him running there of 169, there's been times when that race, that top weight's been 145, isn't it? You know what I mean? So it's,
if he goes for that, if I was Tom George, I'd be thinking, well, we're going to get weight from you, and we could have a crack at that as well.
Exactly. Yeah, who knows whether he'll stay 3 mile 5, but fascinating. The Aintree Hurdle, there's so many things went wrong there, wasn't there? You've got Jason the Militant unseating. My horse, Song for Someone, was beaten at the start again, just as he was at Wincanton. I'm assuming there's just something wrong with him.
Well, he looked at Goshen in the Champion Hurdle and said, whatever you can do, I'll do worse.
Yeah, exactly. He's just hanging straight away and didn't want to know. And when you look at him at the start of the season, he was really keen on his first run, really, relishing jumping hurdles, and that just didn't look there. I think if you put Honeysuckle in that race, she wins it 15 lengths myself. Miller's Bank was third, wasn't it? Third or fourth. It's not. Bouverdare. The money for Bouverdare was amazing, wasn't it? Down to about 6 to 1 at the off. He went really well. He obviously found himself in front far sooner than he would have wanted, and then got bumped by a loose horse. I don't think that made much difference. He's not the horse he was, but I'm not sold on that as a piece of form.
Yeah. Fair enough. Don't forget that tonight's show is live and interactive as well. We are going out right now as we speak, so please feel free to get in touch, YouTube, Facebook or Twitter, and we will pick out some juicy comments, questions and tips. And we've got one here, a social comment from Alex Bellew, who says, everything that won today either missed Cheltenham or tipped up very early and therefore didn't have a hard race. Is that something to consider for tomorrow? Well, Tom, I'll throw that to you. Yeah, of course, we've only got 3 weeks between Cheltenham and Aintree, and I know personally, and I pretty much only just recovered last weekend, so some of these horses who've had tough races must feel the same.
It's possible, isn't it? It's possible. I always think stuff like this looks good until it doesn't look good. Do you know what I mean? Tomorrow, 3 will go in that won at Cheltenham, and we'll say, I just try not to get sucked into too many sort of ways and, sort of theories about racing. I'm still trying to concentrate on which one can run the fastest. It's as simple as that. It's possible. It is possible. I don't think I've tipped too many that ran at Cheltenham this week. It's probably I've got it in the back of my mind that might be the case. But I'm expecting some Cheltenham horses to come out and win. So I'm not going to sit here and say they can't. That's for sure.
Okay, well, let's get stuck into to day 2 then. As I said, we've got 4 Grade 1s and 3 fiendish handicaps on paper. And we start off with one of the aforementioned handicaps here, the Patemps Network Handicap Hurdle. Confusing here, as this is 2.5 miles, of course. And whenever you think of Patemps, you're always thinking of the Cheltenham race over. 3 Wild About Oscar, though, 7-1 favourite here ahead of Tronador at 15-2, Edwardstone at 8s, Mr. Coffee at 8s, Monte Cristo at 8s, 9-1 Solwara 1 and 10-1 Amarillo Sky. It is 16-1 bar those. Simon, I'll come to you first for this, just in terms of money. In terms of handicaps at Aintree, what's the gambles don't necessarily unfold as much as Cheltenham, but has there anything shortened up over the past 48 hours?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the best bet has been Tronador, same connections as last year, or loosely, good Denise Foster rather than Gordon Elliott. But yeah, Tronador's been back from about sort of 10s into 7s. He's been probably the most popular in the race. Others, Mr. Coffee looks to be one of sort of the live horses, in the last few hours. Missing Cheltenham, obviously, and running a decent 7. A similar profile to Buzz, who ran so well in the 2.5 mile Grade 1 today. So they're probably the 2 best backed. But it's a really competitive race. A little bit of interesting money for Stolen Silver, who was actually backed down to post for Cheltenham, didn't run in the end. I just thought he was interesting at a big price, attracting a few each way punts. But no, a cracking opener.
And you're going 5 places, is that right?
5 places.
Okay.
Thank God you're remembering this stuff. It's important.
That's absolutely. Well, it's okay. We can share the fee. But we've got a wide open race here, Paul. But when I spoke to you about tomorrow's card, there was only one trainer on your lips.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, you see Nicky Henderson and you think Britain's winning most trainer at Cheltenham, and you don't really think about Aintree, do you? But Aintree, day 2 in particular, his record is incredible. There's been 63 races run on day 2 at Aintree in the last decade, and Nicky Henderson has won 18 of them, which is a near 30% strike rate. And he's won this race 3 times in the last 7 years, twice with horses that were pretty lightly raced, just as Mr. Coffee is. And he was a horse at the start of the season that everyone basically knew was really, really well handicapped, and he came out and he sluiced up despite tugging like mad at Sandown, and then he got bogged down in the mud. And then last time he ran in the Betfair Hurdle when he got a strong gallop and he settled quite comfortably, and then in fact looked like the trip was nowhere near far enough for him. He was a long way back in the straight, and he ran on really strongly, got switched from one side to the other. And I just think he's going to be really, really well suited to going up to 2.5 miles. And given the trainer's record, I think he's got a massive chance. 7-1 the field, it tells you that it's a very open race. His other one in there is Monte Cristo, who really did look the part when he won at Kempton before going to Cheltenham, when he was quite well fancied, but apparently had a minor setback in the run up to it, and it was touch and go whether he'd get there, so he might come on for it. So the main bet is Mr. Coffee, but I will have a little savour on Monte Cristo too.
Very well. Nicky Henderson then is the man for Paul in that opener. Tom, what did you pick out of this wide open handicap hurdle?
Do you think it's wide open? I didn't. I thought there was 3. I don't know where
What did you pick out of this very easy handicap hurdle?
I didn't know where the money from Tronador came from. I can't see that at all.
No, not can
I. Wild About Oscar has looked to me like he's got a tough chance off top weight. I mean, he's going to have to improve again. He's a good, solid horse, but I can't believe his form's anywhere near as good as Edwardstone's. Edwardstone, I thought, was the solid one. I know he raced at Cheltenham and he won at the Betfair and he ran in the Betfair Hurdle. And as your man earlier said that, no horses come out of Cheltenham and they all did rubbish. But I thought Edwardstone was really solid in this. I think he's crying out for 2.5 miles. I think he's a pound higher than might be off the same mark as when he ran in the County Hurdle. I don't think this is anywhere near as good as that. I thought all the ones down the bottom, bar Solwara 1 possibly, they're very beatable. And I thought, as Keels pointed out, the 2 Henderson horses were the other 2. I went for, like Keels did, for Mr. Coffee simply because he's more unexposed. But I know the stable's sort of tossing up between the 2. They can't choose between the 2. So Monte Cristo, Mr. Coffee, and Edwardstone. I think that one of those will win it. I really do. I struggled to see. I can't believe Amarillo Sky will be good enough down the bottom there. I know he won at Exeter the other day, but he's only getting about £6 or £7 from Mr. Coffee, who looks seriously much better form than him. So, looks lots of runners. Didn't fancy any of them, bar 3.
All right, that's fair enough. Just touched the 3. I'm going to throw one more at you, which I think I agree. There's a lot of unexposed types in here, a lot of interesting horses from top yards. I agree in particular with Mr. Coffee. I think that Benson form looked good, and as you've said, in the Betfair Hurdle, he was never in a good position. But at a bigger price, Jacomar has intrigued me. This horse has got a real engine on him. He won a course and distance race back in October last year, beating Strong Glance. He won at Wincanton in a race that's thrown up a few winners. At Newbury behind Flash the Steel, it was a slow pace. He was held up last and he rattled home. And then he ran in a jumper's bumper to get him fit again and went all the way down the inside at Kempton when all the winners came down the outside. I know we're talking about your Hendersons and your Skeltons. Milton Harris for me in the opener. What price is Jacamar?
Jacamar's 25 to 1.
There we go. All right,
Yeah.
I'll go for Jacamar, 25s. What about you, Simon?
Not dissimilar to the guys, actually. I thought Monte Cristo actually was running a big race in the Coral Cup and actually was hampered by Blue Sari, and I thought it probably would have been in the first 4 that day. I think he's got a great chance. Only run 5 times for Nick Henderson, so I like him. Edwardstone as well, backed him in the County Hurdle, lost his place, stayed on well. Looks a solid play, probably placed again. I thought Cateson, how many are we allowed to have each in this race? I thought Cateson...
You've got 5 places, try and fill them all.
Cateson ran 1 at Aintree in December, runs Aintree quite well. I know it was the bumper he ran. He actually ran in the Grade 1 Novice Hurdle behind Reserve Tank. Tom Scudamore has got a really good record in 3 wins from 7 rides, I think, on Kate. So I thought him at a price. And actually, that money for Stolen Silver, I had a look back at Stolen Silver. He beat Edwardstone as a novice hurdler. He was second to Chantry House as a novice hurdler. Had 3 runs over Chase Fence, got placed every time. They put him back over hurdles, bombed last time. But that money for Cheltenham, and then again a bit of money today, just suggests they think he's a good horse. He's running off 137. He was rated 143 a couple of years ago. So I think that's 4 I'm allowed. You're allowed 4 in this race.
I'm going to narrow you down to your
2. Okay, my 2.
main ones.
Because I'm going to go for value, and the other guys took them. I was going to go Cateson and Stolen Silver. Big prices.
Cateson and Stolen Silver then. And Tom, 2 for you. I'm going to have to shave 1 off
Yeah,
for
I
you.
like this.
Edwardstone and Mr. Coffee for me.
Okay, and you don't have to shave 1 if you've got 2 there.
Yeah, well, it's Mr. Coffee and Monte Cristo. So Stolen Silver was my nap of Cheltenham last year when it was pulled up.
It's going to be a big race. It's going to be a big race.
He
Could be tomorrow.
He certainly has some ability, but I'm not sure he puts it all together.
So based on the Editor to Geek formula, whether you abandon a horse, it wins.
Yes, it's perfectly plausible, yes.
Okay, and I'll go for Jacamar at a big price as well, and Mr. Coffee for the Nicky Henderson factor. That's the first race of the day 2 down at Aintree tomorrow. Done. We are into Grade 1 company next, but it looks a potentially tricky race, although we also have a potential superstar at the top of the betting if the money for him over the past few days is anything to go by. Here, the top Novices Hurdle is headed by Dusart at 9 to 4. Third time lucky is 100 to 30. Any News 6 to 1. Ajero 7 to 1. Belfast Banter 15 to 2. 10 to 1 for Pleasure and Hooghri, and 22 to 1 bar those. And Tom, I'm going to come to you first for this race. Of course, there's been money for Dusart. If ever there is a horse that I know that you and Keels definitely won't be tipping, it's a horse with this type of profile, this type of price.
I wouldn't be backing against him. That's for sure.
I knew you've thrown me a curveball again there, Tom. All right, so you think he'll win?
I do. I think. Well, listen. I think the British novices are, as we saw at Cheltenham, are woefully poor. I think the best one is the best 2 of them didn't run at Cheltenham. My Drogo, who runs on Saturday, and this one, Dusart, who beat Soaring Glory very easily on his sole start. I think the rest of them are a moderate bunch, and I think if he's anything like he showed at Newbury, he'll win this easily. I really don't think there's much in there. I really don't. The only fly in the ointment is down the bottom, Paul Nicholls' horse, Hooghri, who ran in the Fred Winter, the Boodles, and I thought he travelled really well. People have him down as a bit of a softie. I thought he stayed on quite well that day. He's 4-year-old. I think the 4-year-old form might be quite good. So if there is one to take him on with, it would be Hooghri, but I think Dusart will win. I think he's different class.
Okay, well, I'm not going to presume to know what you're going to tip me at, Paul. Are you with or against Dusart?
I made a point of saying I wouldn't tip him, but I sort of half expect him. He's one of those, that, one maiden hurdle win. Like, no matter what Soaring Glory's done since, that maiden hurdle win is not great form as it stands. But there's so much potential there. He won it easy. He's going to improve for it. He did apparently have quite a nasty injury at home afterwards, not after that race. So, but the fact Nicky Henderson comes here and he runs him in a Grade 1 next time. I mean, they must, obviously he's a half brother of Simon Sigg as well. They obviously think an awful lot of him. So it was a race for punting purposes, I was going to sit out. I think the Alex Hales horse for Pleasure is being a little bit underestimated just because of what he's done. He's been, such a very consistent horse. He's going to go from the front.
He's the only one that brings the supreme form, which is normally the Angle version.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's beaten virtually a distance in the Supreme when he finished in third, wasn't he? Like, you know what I mean? But, you know, a sharper 2 miles, he's going to run well. You know, he's probably just about got the best form in the race. But it is in great form, like Tom said. So if there is a very, very good horse in the race, it will be Dusart.
Yeah, absolutely. Dusart he is a 9-4 shot here, and pretty much the market's only horse over the past few days. He might have been about 7-2 in the Open, maybe.
Yeah, he has. He's been really well backed. Just speaking to the traders before we came on air, they sort of said, you know, we're going to take our fill of him, obviously around that 2-1, 9-4. But the vibes are really strong. Nicky Henderson's got a great record in the race. I think he's won it 4 times with 3 favourites and an 11-4 second favourite. So it absolutely fits the profile. It doesn't look a strong race. I was going to mention for pleasure, I think I had a few quid each way on him in the Supreme because I thought, you know, I knew Alex Hales thought he would run well. He's actually rated, I know the ratings don't mean a huge amount necessarily, but he's rated the same as Third Time Lucky, who's a third of the price. So each way maybe for pleasure, and Hoogree's a 10-1 chance as well. They both would be sort of solid each way chances. But yeah, I think Dusart, this is one of those races where I feel the favourite might well win, and it'll cost a few quid, and we'll move on.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, the Supreme Novices Hurdle, of course, Tom, was a fairly weak affair, and it does look like a weak division this year, doesn't it?
Well, I think Appreciate It was very good. I think Bally Adams all right. He made some bad mistake, but I think the rest of them, I mean, the British novices were woeful. I mean, look, it's hard to, you know, you don't want to be too critical because people are trying their best, but they were so bad. They were beating a distance, weren't they? And I just can't. I'm trying to find one that wasn't there is quite hard because it seemed to me like all the best ones were running. And so if, as you say, as I said earlier, I think Dusart and Mydroga are a different class to the other British novices we've seen this season. Neither of them went to Cheltenham, and I don't think the bar's too high. So if Dusart's as good as they think he is, he'll win that, and he'll win it easily.
Okay, Dusart then 9-4. A couple more to just throw at you. One, I've backed Do Your Job at 25-1, who travelled all over Mydrogo for 2 miles at Kelso, and then got outstayed by a classier horse. And second time wind up again. He doesn't have too much to find, and he's a very strong traveller. I thought he was quite interesting. And he was saying about if the British novices aren't any good, you know, are we taking the bumper angle here? Belfast Banter, the Irish challenger. He has a bit to find.
Yeah, he does have a bit to find, but he won well enough at Cheltenham, didn't he? But, you know, I'd like to see a really good horse trained in Britain, to be honest, like, you know what I mean, who do something. And, you know, when you look at it and you think, well, none of the others are that good, Belfast Banter might actually be the one.
He travelled. He actually watched the race again. I was watching Edwardstone, but I mean, Belfast Banter travelled brilliantly through the county, didn't he? So.
Yeah, and he got beat by Echoes in Rain before that, who obviously bolted up at Fairyhouse the other day as well. So maybe the Irish novices might have a runner at least.
He's my editor to Geet, Ross. He's my editor to Geet to Keels' Belfast Banter. I've been on him about 4 times. I got so sick of him because he kept travelling and then not run. Then he goes and wins the county hurdle at 50s.
Well, I'm not surprised. He had at least 4 races, Tommy. He was the last one off the bridle and found nothing, didn't he? So
Exactly.
I can understand it. But you're, Tom, you're with the favourite?
Well, look, I'm like Keels. I won't have a bet in it. If I did have a bet, I'd have a little bit because of the 10 runners. Have a bit on Ugree each way, but I think Dusart will win easily.
Okay, and Keels?
Yeah, I think Dusart will probably win.
And Simon?
For pleasure each way.
Pleasure each way. Okay, and I'll go Belfast Banter and Do Your Job in that second race on the card at Aintree tomorrow then. As we move on to the 250, and again, another Grade 1 contest on the way, and this time it's the Betway Mile Mate Novices Chase. We're up to 3 miles and a furlong. We're up to 3 miles and a furlong, and so is the favourite Chantry House here at 13-8. Espoir de Rome 5-1. Chamblou 6-1. Fiddler on the Roof is 6-1, as is the Big Breakaway 12-1 Sporting John, 14 Silver Hallmark, and Empire Steel at 25-1 is the outsider of the lot. And Chantry House, of course, won the Marsh Novices Chase. Let's not confuse it with the Marsh Chase coming up a little bit later on at Aintree. Sprang a bit of a surprise in that race at Paul, and now suddenly the market's gone the other way as he steps up in trip.
Yeah, I mean, look, he won the race well enough. I mean, he hasn't done an awful lot wrong in his career, has he, apart from that race where he sort of flopped at Cheltenham 3 starts ago. I don't think the form's all that strong myself. I don't think the Marsh form was all that strong.
I mean, the hot favourite, obviously,
Yeah, I mean, the
Came down
hot
off with
favourite
that.
fell. I mean, I was keen to take on the hot favourite. He might well have won. I don't know. We'll wait and see what happens at Punchestown. But I don't think they were all that good. Having said that, we've got 2 horses in here that are 6-1 Fiddler on the Roof and the Big Breakaway. And you know, I mean, you'd love to see the Tizzards do well, but their 2 horses today ran terrible in the Grade Ones. And you know, that's. You know, it's won from nearly 50 since the 16th of March.
Yeah.
I'm writing them straight off. I'm writing Shan Blue straight off because he doesn't stay 3 mile. I don't care that he won the quarter. If the Big Breakaway could jump, he'd have won that easily, wouldn't he? So I'm down to 2 against Chantry House. One is Espoir de Rome, who I think is a very good horse. You know, he's won 3 times over fences. He's been favourite every time, including when trying to give £5 a roll per guy at Haydock. I mean, he failed by 7 lengths to do that, but the winner's rated 166 now. He absolutely toyed with the Bay Birch in a Mickey Mouse race at Leicester for not a lot of money, destroyed his handicap mark, and it must have been allowed to do that because they knew he was coming here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd be trying
They thought
to
you'd just pick
pot
up the
hunt.
cash on the
Otherwise,
way.
you try and pot hunt a small handicap, get your three runs over fences to qualify for a big handicap, you know, a big Class 1 handicap. But instead, they've blown that completely. So I think he jumps really well, this horse. I think he's going to go very, very well. And Sporting John is a big price at 12-1. Ignore what happened at Cheltenham. He just doesn't like that place. I'm convinced of that. There'd be my 2 against Chantry House.
Okay. Well, Philip Holtz could do with a few more winners as well. He's had a couple run well today, but it's still not been. He's 0 from 33 in the past couple of weeks. So,
Yeah. But at least he has had a couple run well.
He has. He's had plenty hit the frame today and yesterday. Social comment in here then from Tom Williams. He says Chantry House 2022 Gold Cup winner. Well, I think the likes of Monkfish, Minella Indo and Aplutar might have something to say about that, but it'd be fascinating to see if he does improve for this step up, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, this is the archetypal race for your previous emailer, isn't it? About the Cheltenham form versus the horses that ran at Cheltenham and the horses that didn't, because the head of the market is dominated by horses that must have had hard races. Chantry House, Fiddler on the Roof, Shan Blue, Big Breakaway. They all had hard races at Cheltenham. So, I was sitting there thinking that I was going to do exactly what Keels did and and be all over Espoir de Rome. And I was until I saw his price, and I'm all about the price. And I just thought, what was he, 5-1, Simon? Yeah, he's 5-1 there. That was just about just okay. Nothing more than that. Now, he might go and win by 5 lengths at 3-1. And I think, well, it was a good price. But I was sort of expecting a horse that just won at Leicester and was 13th in the Martin Pipe last year to be sort of a little bit bigger than 5-1 against horses with Grade 1 form. But I get the Royal Pagaille line comes in. The only other thing is it was all heavy ground form. I know he likes good ground over hurdles wasn't an issue for him, but over fences, it's all heavy ground form. So I just thought 5-1. He's the horse I want to win because he's a different line of form. He's a different, and I agree with Keels. He's got a lot about him, this horse. But I just thought at the prices, it was it was okay. So I left the race alone. But if I was to get stuck in, it would probably be Espoir de Rome, and I would throw a word at Silver Hallmark as well, who gave Fiddler on the Roof a really close race at the start of the season, went on to win his Novice Chase, and looks like he's the type of horse that has been sort of trained to peak for this race as well. So they would be my 2. I'd take on the Cheltenham form. I agree with Keels about the Marsh form not being great, and I'd take them on with 2 horses that didn't run there.
I think Silver Hallmark's got running on for a place in the Grand National for 3 years, written all over him, hasn't he, Tom?
It looks like it, but you never know. I mean, he's going to, if these horses fail to bring their A game, and lots of horses did today. Lots of those Cheltenham horses were tailed off. I mean, he could easily run into the frame here, and he's a decent price, double-figure price, isn't he? Absolutely.
He's got a nice shape for an each-way bet here, because Chantry House has taken a hell of a lot out of the market. But a few horses to mention from Cheltenham, the 2 Tizzard horses in particular, had very differing experiences. One tried to take on Monkfish and pay for it. The other had absolutely nothing to do with it and picked up the place money. But both of them ultra consistent from the Tizzard yard.
They are, and obviously Paul's pointed out that the recent form of the yard actually post-Cheltenham has been disappointing. I suppose, again, you don't want to read too much in to today's performance. I thought the Native River almost ran the race you kind of half expected from Cheltenham, even though I did naff it and back it. But and Eldorado Allen, was disappointing. But I think, but the big breakaway definitely took on Monkfish. He that cost him. But I wonder if, for me, is the Mildmay course a big breakaway course? I'm not sure. I think it might be for Fiddler on the Roof that he ran a really.
So far, what is a big breakaway course? That's the thing.
I think Cheltenham is. I think it's a big staying chase.
Fences or rivals.
I think he's a lovely staying chase, and I think this sort of is slightly more Kempton-like in terms of speedy, better ground, fast jumping. I think Fiddler on the Roof, his form second to Monkfish, second to Next Destination, second to a good horse Allart. He's not necessarily lived up to the heights. But he's been running consistently. He's never out of the two at the end of the day. I think he's going to run a good
banker.
So I'd like Fiddler on the Roof of the pair. Chuncher House makes the market. He's 20-1 for next year's Gold Cup, stepping up significantly in trip. I mean, is that a given that he's going to stay 3 mile 1?
No.
No, absolutely not. But I think Nicky Henderson came out and said, well, he's shaped like a stayer, didn't he? And it almost like that thought had crystallised in his mind after he'd won, rather than it being an intentional step.
And loads of, you look back, it's when you look back on horses' career, like Kauto Star, Best Mate, Desert Orchid, Kicking King, horses who at one stage or other you'd have thought, does he stay? And ends up being a thorough stayer who once was very good over 2 miles. But I think this is a really good race. Even Champler, it was a big move in the Cheltenham. The way he jumped and ran at Kempton, could you see him pinging around here?
It was it was the biggest of big moves, Paul, wasn't it?
It's strange, isn't it? I mean, I expected him to try and make all, and then he went sort of slowly for the first mile, and then decided to sprint for an entire mile, which is, it was daft. I mean, I don't know what was going through his head with that one. It cost me a few quid. I don't think he's going to last out, especially given that long running.
Yeah,
on this trip.
It's not for him, is it?
Is there a potential that he could get an easy time in front here, though?
Yeah, there is. He might do, but I mean, he's still going to have horses.
He's still going to have to beat all the other horses. Yeah,
he's still going to have to see the trip out really well.
Yeah.
And given how badly the big breakaway jumped at Kempton, how close he got to him, I can't see him really seeing it out.
Okay, so the Mildmay Novices Chase. Then, Tom, your selection here?
I will probably have a few quid on Espoir de Rome, despite not loving his price. But I thought he was the one to sort of upset the apple cart, probably.
Okay, Paul?
Yeah, I've already backed Espoir de Rome.
Okay, Espoir de Rome. And Simon?
Fiddler on the Roof.
Fiddler on the Roof it is, and at the risk of incurring the wrath of Paul if he does stay, Shan Blue, to maybe conserve that energy a little bit better at Cheltenham. Admittedly, that wouldn't be particularly hard. So that is the 250, the Mildmay Novices Chase. We are on to the 325, which is registered as the Melling Chase, but we've just been talking about Marsh Chase form. This is now sponsored by Marsh. This is also the Marsh Chase. We are 2.5 miles here for this Grade 1 contest, and again, plenty of Cheltenham form coming to the fore, with favourite Fakir Duderie for the Ryanair form at 11-4, Politolog 3-1, Master Tommy Tucker 11-2, Dashel Drasher at 6-1, 7-1 Notebook, 15-2 Nutswell, 16-1 Itchy Feet, and Duke de Genevere is the 40-1 outsider of the lot. There's been a few races at Cheltenham and also this week that, I'm not going to say a rogues gallery because that's a bit harsh, but it's a fair mix of horses and form lines, isn't it?
It certainly is. I mean, there's ones you can pick holes in. What happened to Politolog last time? He sort of got taken on and folded against First Flow, who I really don't think is anywhere near as good as him. So that was a strange one. He's got some good form around here. He beat Min in this race before. He was beaten a long way 2 years ago against him. But obviously he's had that setback with Cheltenham because he missed it on the day. The Nichols team looking very, very good form. He's one of those you see that he's not favourite and he's actually got a fair chunk in hand on the ratings. And you think, why didn't I back that? But I'm into opposing him. I want to oppose him with Dashel Drasher, but I can't because I don't think the ground is soft enough. He was taken out at Cheltenham because it was quickening up. They're apparently putting 3 mile on all 3 mil on all courses again tonight, but I mean that'll only keep it what it was today, really, won't it?
You think he's a proper slogger?
I think he wants soft ground, yeah. And if he doesn't, good luck to him. But I mean, he has been underestimated really because he's won 8 of his last 11 starts. But the other horse for consistency is Fakir Duderie, who hasn't finished out the first 2 at anything between 2 mile and 2 mile 5 since he was 4th in the Supreme Novices Hurdle 2 years ago. And he just keeps running his race. I think he'll be there or thereabouts. He was only beating a neck in the Grade 1 juvenile hurdler 2 years ago. He'd be my selection, even though he is now Fav.
Okay, yeah, Fakir Dudari then 11-4. In terms of betting moves, Simon, it looks a fairly quiet market. I get the feeling that punters don't quite know which way they want to side with.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like today's Grade 1 2.5 mile hurdle. You haven't got any Cheltenham winners coming into the race. You've got all sorts of different strands of form. Fakir Dudari is a sort of solid-ish 11-4 favourite on the basis of the second to Allaho, but that was obviously, that was a tough race to run in behind that, the Allaho. Politologue missed Cheltenham. Nichols in great form. I could see him maybe starting favourite, and he missed Cheltenham because they had a bit of blood in his nose. I don't think there was any suggestion there was anything seriously wrong with him. It was just a sort of safety first approach. It may have been a blessing in disguise in many ways. So I think he may end up starting favourite, but wide open betting. A bit of shrewd money for itchy feet. I think on the basis as you might as well look for something at a big price, and he has got some good form to his name, and he has got some decent ground form. But tricky one. Tricky one.
Yeah, it is. On paper, Tom, it looks a nice shape to bet in, but again, like trying to find something you really want to solidly get stuck into might be tricky. But have you got something up your sleeve for this race?
No, I like Dashel Drasher. I like him a lot. I'm not worried about the ground one bit. All his best hurdles form came in April and May and March when he was winning at Cheltenham. He beat some good horses at Cheltenham up the hill there on good ground. He ran second to Champ on good ground over at Newbury last year. I'm not worried about the ground at all. I think he's the most underestimated chaser in training. I thought he's won the last twice at Ascot with his ears pricked coming to the last just dossing. I think he's top class and I'll be backing him.
Is there a potential that him and Politologue might get into a bit of a duel?
It's possible, but I don't care about stuff like that, Ross. I'm not interested in race tactics or anything like that. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. If he gets into it, it'll be jockey error if he does. He can sit in behind if he wants. He can take it up if he wants. No worries for me. I think he's just a very, very good horse that is underestimated every time he runs.
OK, just throw a couple more at you, Tom. Master Tommy Tucker. I can't quite work out how this horse is 10 years old. It doesn't quite make sense to my brain.
It feels 10 years ago, funny enough.
Explains it all. I'm learning every day. It seems like he's barely raced, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, he's been very likely to race, had his problems, and he could be really clumsy. But when he gets his jumping right, he's one of the best jumpers around, isn't he? He can really fly a fence. But if he hits one at Aintree, he won't survive it because they're stiff, But he's very talented. He looked really fast when he sped away at Kempton, didn't he? I know the Imperial Aura fell that day, but he did look very tidy.
And one more I thought was a little bit interesting. Notebook again. We're talking about horses who don't like Cheltenham. Notebook has raced 3 times at Cheltenham and has spat his dummy out every single time, but literally everywhere else.
Is that the only time he's travelled though?
That is a good question. Do you think it's
I don't know. It might be
coming over to England thing.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out after this race. But yeah,
I don't know. He's got some very decent form, hasn't he?
He's just a bit of a nut, isn't he? He charged off, didn't he, at Leopardstown one day and got loose. And I just wonder whether 2.5 miles, if he's if he does the same tactics again, suit him. But once again, I'm a little bit in your camp here, Ross. I think that good horses are good horses. Over most trips, really. If you're a top class horse, you can run over most trips, and I think he's definitely dangerous because I think the ground will suit him.
Okay, so Tom, you're a Dashel Drasher man.
Yeah, I just follow him over a cliff. I love him. I think he's a great horse.
Yeah, absolutely. Dashel Drasher then for Tom. Paul.
Yeah, I might well regret deserting him, but I think Fakir Dudari is the most likely winner.
Okay, and Simon?
I thought Politologue, given Paul's form, and he's the best horse on ratings in the race, and it doesn't look a strong race. I thought Politologue might have another big win in him.
Yeah, this is his kind of race. He's won it. He finished second to Min, and there's no Min in here necessarily, is there? So, okay, that's the Melling Chase then, and I'll go for Fakir Dudari, who, like I said, never runs a bad race in these events, but there is just a little eye on Notebook away from Cheltenham. Let us know what you fancy for the Grade 1s then on day 2 on YouTube, Twitter or Facebook as we move on to the last 3 races at Aintree, and we take a break from the Grade 1 action to go over the national fences then for the Topham here. We've got 2 miles and 5 furlongs to go, and we have 28 runners. Live, Love, Laugh is 7-1. Visio Man 8-1. 10-1 Morning Vicar. Caribbean Boy is 10-1. Ibleo 12. Senior Citizen 12. 2 for Gold 12. And 14-1 bar those. And Simon, this is a good race for that fail to finish offer, I imagine, over the national fences.
I'm sure it will be. It absolutely will be. Yeah, big field over the national fences. No favourites have won in the last 9 years. There have been a couple of single figure winners, but some big price ones as well, as you'd expect. Just talking to the traders, they're really happy to take on the Irish horse at the front of the market. Live, Love, Laugh, back in a bit of form, but hasn't won for 4 years. He's an 11-year-old, and Visio Man was sort of tipped up early in the week at 20s, very short now at around that sort of 8-1 mark. So I think the boys happy to take that on. They think taking on the Irish, very brave, but and the Caribbean Boy's been quite well backed. So I think that's a horse they were quite keen to keep on side.
It looks like Paul Nicholls was the name of day one, Nicky Henderson's.
Yes, absolutely, actually. I was looking through the first few races. He's got a very strong hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But 28 runners here. How many places are we?
6 places on the Topham.
6 places. And the
You can
favourite.
have 3 this time then, can you?
We've got to be
so. Extra place, yeah. 2.5. Paul, this is absolutely wide open, but the favourite looks to have a leading chance from a handicapping perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I wanted to back this horse, Live, Love, Laugh, last year.
Yeah.
And I was hoping I'd get 16-1. And when I saw him, I knew he was going to run this year. I was hoping to get 16-1 as well. And then he sort of blew his cover a bit by running 2 really good races. And now you're going to look for negatives, and he is only 1 from 18 over fences, and so you're not getting much more than even money for a place. I think he'll be a double-figure price at the off. I may step in then, but I can't back him now. I can't back him at 7-1. I just don't think that's the right price.
Do you think it's got a lot to do with connections?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it's a bit like that Tronador earlier on. I mean, that's on form. That's got absolutely no chance whatsoever. But it's, Denise Foster, Training Ireland. Let's stick an Irish horse at the front of the betting.
Yeah.
Because, well, they just win everything, don't they? I mean, you cannot blame bookmakers for doing it because, and Simon, I tell you, the job of a bookmaker is to not just price it up, but price it up how you think punters are going to bet as well. Yeah. Because if you can lay something at 7s when you think it should be 12s, you'll lay it at 7s, won't you? You don't want to put it 12s. So,
especially these days where it's quite easy to quickly change your mind and go elsewhere.
Yeah. So Live, Love, Laugh. There's no chance whatsoever of that being favourite. I really don't think. What price would you back it at then? I'll back him when he hits 10-11-1.
Okay.
Like,
Is that 11-1?
We'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, he will be.
I think he could.
He will be.
Yeah.
He will be. Yeah.
So what currently looks a bigger price?
Anyway, I've got 2. I've got one reasonable at the front of the market. Precious Cargo, another Nicky Henderson one. He's actually 3rd string in the betting here behind Caribbean Boy, who's been well supported, as Simon said, and was an eye catcher at Cheltenham, and Morning Vicar. But Precious Cargo was 2nd to Masters Tommy Tucker first time out, beaten 12 lengths. He was taken away for a wind up after that, and I thought he shaped really well. Looked like he was coming to win at Warwick last time, and just faded. He almost certainly needed that run. This has been the plan ever since. Quite a bold jumping, prominent racer. I think he might enjoy himself around there. And I've got one at an absolutely massive price that, if he was trained by somebody else. It's always a silly argument to say that because he isn't trained by somebody else. But the point being, Pink Eyed Pedro, he's a 66-1 shot with Coles, only a one horse bigger price than him. And earlier on this season, he won a Class 2 handicap at Tipsters, and then he finished 3rd in the Haldon Gold Cup. He's only beaten 4 3/4 lengths by Green Teen. He was rated 151 then, and is now 164 after being 2nd in the Tingle Creek and 4th in the Champion Chase. The 2nd one since, the 5th, the 4th was 5th in the Grand Annual. It's a solid piece of form. And Pink Eyed Pedro ran in the Grand Sefton after that, and I promise you, go and watch a replay of how he jumps and how he travels all the way through it until he turns in the straight and gets to the 2nd last. And the key to this horse is he cannot have soft ground, and it was bottomless that day. Going stick was 3.5. It was 5 point something today. The winning time was well over a furlong faster in the moderate horses in the Fox Hunter Chase than it was for the race in December. So I think the ground will suit. Jack Hughes has been booked 6 places, 66-1. Why not have a little tickle?
Okay.
Love it.
Pink-Eyed Pedro then, and Precious Cargo for Paul then here in the Topham. Do you approach these races any differently again, Tom, or are we simply going for best form and, as you said, the fastest horse in the race?
That's what I do because I have no chance otherwise, because I'm absolutely useless at races over the national fences. I nearly broke a 15-year
Tipped more national winners than anybody else, and he says he's useless. Absolute nonsense.
Useless in the last 15 years. Since they changed them to those small fences, it's not about jumping. It just isn't, and I can't get it out of my head that jumping. It's the one race. They're the races that least are affected by jumping, I think. I mean, you watch that Topham today. That late night pass nearly smashed through every friend, nearly still one. And I'm sitting there watching it thinking, this isn't how it used to be.
Yeah.
And so I struggle to get into my head that jumping isn't important, and I'm always looking for good flashy jumpers, and so therefore I get it wrong every time. But I was just watching the Fox Hunters again before we came on, and I thought you needed to get home. I know the ground's better, and I know it's only 5.8 or whatever, but I was watching Segal thinking that he's coming there to win, and he got exhausted, having not touched a twig hardly all the way round. And I thought all the strong stayers came to the fore. Billaway, and the winner was 1 over 3 miles, 2 furlongs last time. Late night pass. I just thought you might need to stay, and that's why I was looking for something that I was certain was going to run through the finish line. Funnily enough, Paul, I had a very, very good look at Pink-Eyed Pedro, looking at the prices, and I watched that race again, and you are spot on. He jumped extremely well. I was just came down to think he wouldn't get home, but with 6 places, at 66 to 1, I certainly wouldn't put anyone off him. I was worried about Precious Cargo getting home as well, because I'd just been on him a few times, and I've always thought he's a bit of a windy finisher. So I ended up on Caribbean Boy, because I think he's crying out for a trip. I want to back him for next year's Hennessy, because I think he's that class. I mean, if you look back to his form at Newbury at the start of the season, he beat Fiddler on the Roof and Getaway Trump, who are both rated, I don't know what they're rated, nearly 155 now. He's found the same mark. He beat them hollow. If he gets into a rhythm and he's ridden prominently, I think he'll go really well, because I just think he's class. I think he's class, and I'm not sure there's that many in this race that could run with him if all things being equal. But
you get the feeling with him, Tom, that he's not quite got the street smarts to match his ability yet, but it will come together eventually.
I think this track might suit him, Ross. I think the problem with Cheltenham is that he missed the start and got in and around horses and hated it. And it was only when Daryl Jakin pulled him to the outside that he started running on again, and he finished quite strongly. I think if he gets a good break and is out jumping like the ones we saw today out front in the Topham, and he's only got 2 or 3 horses around him, which is how those races unfold, I think he'll go really well. But look, as I say, I'm useless at these sort of races, and you're probably better off listening to people that understand them, because I certainly don't.
That's self-deprecation.
I'm useless.
Spoke total sense for about 5 minutes there, and then says, "Oh, that was actually a load of rubbish. I don't know what I'm talking about."
That's the clip that will play out when Caribbean Boy gets off the track. So Caribbean Boy for you then, Tom, Paul?
Pink-Eyed Pedro and Precious Cargo.
Okay, and I'm just going to throw, when I think of, like I said, the types of horses that win this race, the one kind of horse, David Bass, left-handed, sharp tracks, out there from the front, stays 3 miles, bold jumper, 2 for gold, I thought this race looked absolutely ideal for his type of racing. So I thought he was really interesting for Kim Bailey, interesting they're going for this, and he's still got time on his side. So, Simon, we've got 6 places to aim for. What's your each-way play?
I thought it's interesting hearing what Tom said. Storm Control, who ran 5th in the Kim Muir, has been running over longer trips this season, but was running over 2 miles, 2.5 miles last season. So I thought he could bowl along and he'd stay the trip well. And Huntsman's Son, actually, I backed Alex Hales thought he'd run well in the plate, but actually would come on for it. Ran 6th that day, a hold-up horse, was never going to suit him behind the shunter. He's been quite well backed here, and I think he could go well at a big price. So Huntsman's Son and Storm Control for me.
Okay, there we go. Follow the Topham then as we move on to the penultimate race of day 2 at Aintree then, and it is the Dunbar Sefton Novices Hurdle here. And Paul Nicholls had a frustrating Cheltenham, and he was absolutely livid that Brave Man's Game got beat in the Ballymore, but he might well gain compensation here as he's 13-8 favourite for the Sefton. It's 5-1 Cape Gentleman, Streets of Doyen 8-1, Galley Hill 8-1, Oscar Elite at 9s, Midnight River at 11-1, Alaphilippe at 14s, and it's bigger prices the rest then here. Simon, Brave Man's Game again, a market a bit like the Dusart race where it seems like people only want to back one horse.
Yeah, and he looks really solid. I think again, the Paul Nicholls form today, I think people will latch onto this on a difficult day tomorrow as one of the short ones, along with Dusart to back 13-8. That form, third to Bob Ollinger. I know he was furious, but it looks good form, doesn't it? He looks a very good horse. Probably better than the Albert Bartlett form, hence the price, given there's lots of Albert Bartlett representation in the race. So he's been very solidly backed. Bits of each way money for Galley Hill. I think the guys might give a reasonable mention to him, so we can hear what they say. Oscar Elite early in the week's quite well backed, but it's basically Brave Man's Game's the dominant horse in the race from a betting point of view.
But Nicky Henderson, again, Paul, is the man you normally turn to for this kind of race.
Yeah, I do. Galley Hill is one that's definitely on my list. I think he was obviously unfit. The market told you he was unfit at Ascot last time. He was actually long odds on overnight and ended up going off 13-8 and getting beat by Midnight River, who was in this race too. And he ran a really encouraging race. And he's going to appreciate the step up in trip. I'm concerned about Brave Man's Game. One, he's the only horse that Nicholls is running this week that ran at Cheltenham, and he almost certainly had a hard enough race there. Two, is he a little bit overrated? I mean, he went that short for Cheltenham on the back of winning the Challow at Newbury, and I think that's got soft race written all over it. The more I look at it, the runner-up was a 4-year-old who'd only run really slow times in bottomless ground. The Glancing Queen has been beaten twice since she was third, and the other two failed to finish. Wild About Oscar, who runs in the first, pulled up, and the other one ran out. So
it fell apart.
Yeah, it fell apart. So, yes, the Cheltenham form's good, but he's got to back it up, and he's going up in trip. There are question marks that you don't want about a 13-8 shot.
I think he's rushing that step up in trip a bit.
Yeah, he may or may not be. I mean, I think he'll stay. It's whether, but it isn't proven, and he's coming off a hard race. And they're two unknowns for backing a horse at 13-8, aren't they?
Yeah.
In a Grade 1. So I like the look of Galley Hill, but I want to give Alaphilippe another chance because I think I did like the way he won at Haydock. He's been really progressive all season. I think he was in the wrong place all the time at Cheltenham in the Albert Bartlett. He was right out the back. He missed out a couple of hurdles. He came wide into the straight and then went the other side of the track as well, trying to stay on and pick his way through. I think he showed a lot of courage to get where he did. He finished fifth in the end. He wasn't far behind two of those ahead of him, and is a much bigger price. So I'm going to take a chance, Alaphilippe each way.
OK, Alaphilippe each way. Then, Tom, over to you for this one. Brave Man's Game is top of the betting here. You were saying about the British Novice Hurdles not being up to much. There are a couple of Irish challengers here, Cape Gentleman and Streets of Doyen.
Yeah, I would be interested in Cape Gentleman. I mean, he tried this sort of trip at the Dublin Racing Festival, didn't it? And it all went horribly wrong. And then he came back. Was it 2 miles at Kempton where he won? And so, but he is the Irish Cesarewitch winner on the flat. And the fact that they're coming back to this sort of trip is interesting. He's definitely got a lot of class, that horse. I wouldn't rule him out. But I want to take on the Albert Bartlett form, I think. I just thought that the winner won so easily, and I think he could have won by 50 lengths if, in another half a furlong. I thought he was just light years ahead of anything else in the race. So I just can't believe anything that finished behind him was that good. So therefore, I wanted to take on that whole lot of form, Streets of whatever it was called, and all those ones. So Oscar Elite. So I was looking at something from a different strand. I agree with Keels totally about Brave Man's Game. I just think he's overrated. I just think it was Paul Nicholls think he's the second coming, and he got everyone sort of jumped on the bandwagon thinking he was, and he probably isn't. I ended up on Galley Hill simply because he cost a fortune. He was one of those Irish pointers that didn't go to Ireland that cost a fortune. I was impressed with him at Ascot last time because, as Keel says, the vibes were wrong, and he came back. I think he was pretty ill when he came back. He was one of the Henderson ones that sort of that wasn't right. They think he's going to run really well here today. I think this is a race Nicky's won the last twice, hasn't he? I mean, I'm not sure he's Santini or Champ, but I think he's pretty good, Galley Hill, and I think him and Cape Gentleman would be my two, although I would spare a few seconds to have a look at the top one, Ahoy Senor, for Lucinda Russell, who's about 66 to 150 to 1. He was really impressive at Ayr last time over 2.5 miles. He won a point to point by about 50 lengths on good to soft ground before he went to Lucinda Russell. And I just think he's a type of horse that is going to be underestimated. But whether he's quite good enough for this, I don't know. But I'm a Galley Hill man, but I am very scared of Cape Gentleman.
Okay, Ahoy Senor then could be the new Brindisi Breeze for Lucinda Russell, and is currently about a 40 to 1 shot, I think, Simon.
Yeah, 33 to 1
33
from
to 1.
50, in fact.
Oh, there
Some
you go.
money this evening.
There you go. Yeah, that's obviously been
Could
nibbled.
that be?
Get on first before you tip it up, Tom. Absolutely. Just to mention Nicky Henderson's record in this, 3 winners and 2 seconds in the past 6 years, and before that he didn't have any runners in the race. So when he runs them, he invariably has a very good record. And I thought it was a quick word for Bothwell Bridge as well, who was another one who had good bumper form. He was only sent off 15 to 8 behind Brave Man's Game, and I don't quite know what happened there. He just seemed to drop out quite tamely, but he stepped up to 3 miles last time out and destroyed, admittedly, a poor field. But I thought he had a bit more to play with.
Yeah, it's probably a much more open race than the market suggests. We'll have to wait and see. I'm still gonna put my confidence in the Albert Bartlett form. I don't think it's that bad.
Okay, so it's Albert Bartlett form for Paul versus not Albert Bartlett form for Tom. We'll see who comes out on top. And the final race of day 2 at Aintree, then that was the final grade 1. We are into the Pinsent Masons Handicap Hurdle for conditional jockeys and amateur riders here. So it is essentially a bit of a Martin Pipe, but over 2 miles. Coppolas 4 to 1. Tomorrow Mystery 5 to 1. Campron 7 to 1. It is 9 to 1. Leon Cavallo 9 to 1. The Widowmaker 10 to 1. Bold Enough 11 to 1. Wild Max and 12 to 1. Bar those. Paul, we have plenty of unexposed handicap debutants here, a lot like the Martin Pipe at Cheltenham, and you're looking for that one who's going to improve half a stone to a stone for this challenge.
You are, yeah, but I mean, this race can just as easily be won by horses that aren't unexposed. You know, they've been around a while, and I've taken a chance on a horse that only just got touched off in it 2 years ago, has been absolutely primed for this. I mean, he's only run once since. This is this time next year, trained by Richard Spencer. 2 years ago, they put Dara O'Keefe on, and he nearly got him home. I mean, he's a bit of a hound, we will call him this time next year. He looked like he was going to go charging past, and then sort of ran alongside and didn't quite do it. But he's only a pound higher, having gone up quite a lot. He's been off the best part of 2 years. But they've taken the trouble of booking Simon Torrance, who rides in Ireland, rides plenty of horses for JP McManus, won 3 very big handicaps for him this year over hurdles and fences. So it's just interesting that he's gone to the bother of booking a top quality Irish claiming jockey. It just makes me think that they have got him ready, and you know he's a horse with a lot of ability to be carrying 10 stone 1 in a race like this.
Okay, there you go then. This time next year is what price, Simon?
He is 16 to 1.
16 to 1 then. This time next year, Rodders for the 5:15 at Aintree. Then, Tom, are you siding with proven form or unexposed handicap debuts?
Bit of both. No, probably more the latter. I like Comprond for Philip Hobbs and Ben Jones. He's a 97 RPR on the flat he got over in France. He didn't jump very well last time, but he's a flat-bred horse. And I think the ground will suit him. He's by Lope de Vega out of a Mondium there, so got a bit of pace about him. I know that, and I think he looks like he's been sort of primed for this race. I thought he'd go well. And right down the bottom, a horse called Jemmy Randy for Venetia Williams, who was going very well upside Soaring Glory when Soaring Glory fell at Wetherby when he won 3 starts ago. He hated the heavy ground at Sandown afterwards, having travelled well, and he was a bit too keen last time in a I think it was at Leicester or Newbury, but he had a big weight that day. He had 11 stone 12. He's not massive, Jemmy Randy, and I thought right down the bottom, off a strong pace here, if he settles, he could go well at a massive price. So they would be my 2. I prefer Comprond, if that's how you pronounce it, with my French accent. And but I would also throw a few quid on the bottom one, Jemmy Randy. And those would be my 2.
Okay, there we go. 2 against the field, then finally finale at Aintree for day 2. Simon, what wins the last?
I like Leon Cavallo. I followed him in the Martin Pipe, which is it's such a strong race, that Martin Pipe. You know, sort of good, well handicapped Irish horses. He ran a really honest race in 6th. I think the drop back and triple suit him. Good condition on board, Fergus Gilliard. And I know the Pipes really fancied him to do the, to do the double actually. Well, win the Imperial Cup. They had transport problems getting to Sandown that day. So I think he's got a big race in him. So hopefully it'll be the last tomorrow.
Okay, there we go. Leon Cavallo then is a 9-1 shot, and I quite like look at 10-1 bold enough. I thought it was a big eye catcher on his handicap day over 2.5 miles. Looked like he was going to win, didn't get home, dropped back in trip with Hugh Morgan on board tomorrow. So it looks quite a tricky day. There's not many races where I thought everyone in the studio and Tom at home are absolutely 100% guaranteed to be smashing into anything. So I'm interested to see what the naps are. Tom, we'll come to you. What is your nap for day 2 of Aintree?
Oh, I agree with you, Ross. I think it's really tricky. I think Edwardstone, perhaps, in the first race. I just think he's a good, solid handicapper that's been running in better races than this and will enjoy the step up to 2.5 miles. And I think he might just be slightly underestimated. People will think he's had too hard a race. And I just thought 8-1 was fair enough price about him. So I'll go with Edwardstone in the first.
Okay, Edwardstone in the first. And you winced there, Paul, which suggests you fancy winning this race as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm going to go for Mr. Coffee. I had it in the first this year, so I'm going to try and do it again for day 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Why wait around? Napa win it in the first.
I thought you were certain to go for Espoir de Rome. That's why I went in the first.
Would you like to? You can confer and change. Anyone?
No, I'm sticking with it. You're
sticking with it. All right, very well. Do you fancy one in the first time? Or are we going elsewhere?
Well, I might now. Yeah, Monte Cristo. No, I'm going to go for Fiddler on the Roof in the Novices Chase to be a big winner for the Tizard team. Yeah, that's my one.
Okay, I'll go for Fakir Duderi to win his second Grade 1 over the trip, over that 2.5 miles in the Marsh Chase. And it's a fascinating day for day 2. A tough one, though. And remember to gamble responsibly, whatever you're playing on at Aintree on day 2. We'll be back on Friday night, of course, to have a look at the big one, the Grand National on Saturday, joined once again by Tom, Paul and Simon. Thank you for their views this evening. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow to do it all again here on In the Know.